Hello and welcome back to the class. I am Vishali Sharma and I will be discussing chapter 2 self and personality with you guys today. So these are certain things about myself. If you want to join my live classes, you may contact on the number given below. Without any further delay, let's begin our chapter. Self and personality. So, what do you understand by the term self and personality? Self has the totality of an individual, conscious experiences, ideas, thoughts, feelings with regard to himself and herself. Whereas personal identity has attributes of a person to make him or her different from others. For example, my personal identity is my name, Vishali Sharma, my qualities, and my potentials and beliefs. Then we have social identity. So, what is social identity? Social identity is the aspect of a person that links him or her to the social and cultural environment. So, here my religion, my caste, my gender may be the part of social identity. Like, for example, if I'm a Hindu, Brahmin, Adivasi, etc., and etc. Now, self can be viewed as subject or object. When the self is a subject, when the self is treated as a subject, I say who does something. For example, I am a dancer, I am a teacher, I am a mentor. So here I am a subject, an actor. So I am treating myself as an subject. So here the self engages in the process of knowing itself. Then we have object, which gets affected. For example, I am the one who easily gets hurt. I am the one who easily get to start work. And the consequences, the self gets observed and comes to be known. Then we have personal self and social self. Personal self is primarily concerned with oneself. For example, I am concerned with my own personal freedom, identity, personal comfort, whereas social self is in relation with others. So here I will have my family, my relational self, my cooperation, my unity, my affiliation, my sacrifices, my support, and shared values with my family and social relationships. Then we have cognitive and behavioral aspects of self. So, self concept is the way we perceive ourselves and ideas we hold about our abilities and attributes. So, this definition have multiple times came in board exams in 1 mark or sometimes have been asked in a whole answer. So, a self concept is my own ideas that I hold about myself, my abilities, my attributes, and it can be positive or negative. When the self concept of a person have positive view about their academic talent but a negative view about their cultural talent. For example, I think that yes, I am very good in academics, but I might think that no, I am not that good in my cultural talents, for example, singing or any other activity for that matter. And the method by which our self concept is constructed or is being like checked is asking about himself or herself. Ask yourself, who am I? What do I like? What I am good at? What I am bad at? Then we have self esteem. Self esteem is basically अपनी आंखों में अपनी इज्जत होना. It's also an important aspect of self, whereas it's judgment about our own values and worth. It has different, everybody has different self esteems. Then studies have shown that kids, basically children of 6 to 7 years, develop their self-esteem in 4 areas. First of all, academic competence. If the child is very intelligent, they'll think and they will also behave in a manner, they will also say it out loud that yes, I am academically intelligent or average or below average or very exceptionally talented. Then social competence. Yes, I like talking people. Oh no, I don't like talking people. So you will see kids clearly say speaking this out that they do like or they do not like certain aspects. Then physical athletic competence. If the child is very much into athletics or dancing or anything for that matter, then the kid will explicitly show this in their preferences of sports or not preferencing any sport and going to library. Then physical appearance, that is why it has been shown and seen that you should never comment on the kids appearance. They do form their self-esteem in the childhood and it does affect them in future. Then we have overall self-esteem, that is the capacity to view oneself in terms of stable disposition and combine separate self-evaluation from into general psychological image about ourselves. So it's basically the whole definition. Then children have high academic self-esteem, perform better in schools than with lower self-esteem. Obviously, if you have very high self-esteem that yes, I can do it, I can make it, I can complete it, then I will be thinking, yes, I have that academic competence, then I can excel in academics. Then we have social self-esteem. So social self-esteem, if is high, then I will have form and positive self relationships with others. My parents will not make decisions for me. Then we have self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is basically also known as personal self. It has been shown in Bandura's social learning theory. It's a confidence in our own ability and our own ability to achieve a particular result. For example, if you throw me into the football match, I might be like the most zero person there because I don't know how to play football. I don't know how to like reach to that goal mark and how to do anything in that match. But if you put me on a dancing stage, I might won a trophy there. But these self-efficacies, like these understanding about our own ability and our own ability to achieve an intended result is known as self-efficacy. If a child thinks that yes, I am competent enough to achieve a particular thing, then that person might go and put efforts and achieve a particular result. Then the person who believes that they have that ability or behavior, they will require to show that in a particular situation. Children and adults also learn behavior by observing others. So people who have strong self-efficacy, they're allowed to select, influence, construct circumstances for their own life and less fearful. For example, if I have high self-efficacy in teaching, then I will be able to select my environment that yes, I would like to teach, I would like to influence the little ones, I would like to construct my circumstances of my own life, but I don't be very fearful about that idea. Then self-efficacy can be developed by our own society, our own parents, our own positive experiences can help by presenting positive models during the formative years of the children. So that is why parenting is a very difficult as well as a very important job by parents. So here the children are required to have a positive environment where the children are encouraged to do everything they want to. They're encouraged to be the part of any competition. They're encouraged to be the part of the society. They are encouraged to have an optimistic idea about their life. That is how children will have high self-efficacy and they'll not be like doubting every time on their own selves. Then we have self-regulation. So self-regulation is basically our own ability to organize and monitor our own behavior, and people who are able to change their behavior according to the demands of the external environment are high on self-monitoring. Now what is this? This is basically when I have to monitor my behavior, I have to check myself that whether I am doing good in the situation or not. I will see that yes, I am doing good, but on the same part I might be thinking, no yaar, I am not doing good here, I should actually modify my behavior. I cannot keep asking the little kids to speak poems and stories for my own entertainment in a social environment, right? So people who are able to change their behavior according to the demands of the external environment are high on self monitoring. If you are in a public setting, you need to behave in a particular manner, and if you're able to do so, then you are high on self monitoring. Then self control. Sometimes you want to have an ice cream, but that doesn't mean if you want to have an ice cream, you'll go snatch one from a kid, right? So self control is basically learning to delay and defer the gratification or need. So if you have a like need right now to eat like have ice cream, butter chicken, butter paneer, or anything for that matter, and you are sitting in the meeting, you cannot have it. And if you're doing vrats or upvas or rosa, in our Indian culture, we are taught to do self-control by these rituals of ours. And there are certain techniques also of self-control. First of all, observation of our own behavior, self-instruction and self-reinforcement. So here I will be observing that either ways, like is it good to have ice cream right now or is it not good? Then I'll instruct myself, no, it's not good to have ice cream just now. I'll instruct myself that I will have a good reinforcement, that I will have a big mug of ice cream tonight, but not right now. Then we have Indian notion of self and Western notion of self. So boundaries drawn between the self and the others are different in both the notions. First of all, we have Indian notion. Indian notion, as most of us are from India, reading this chapter will know it better, that we have shifting nature of our boundaries. So we might be like more or less more what do we call it, helpful, and more or less having changed boundaries. Like I might think that okay, if the neighbor is in pain, they can come to my bedroom and sit and sleep for a night here. But in Western cultures, the boundaries are relatively fixed. You're not entering other person's boundaries without any permission, and there is no clear difference between the self and others in Indian notion, whereas there has a clear dichotomous like difference between the self and the other, the man and the nature, and the subjective and the objective in the Western notion of the self. Self and group remains the state of harmony in Indian notion of self, whereas self and group are two different entities in the Western notion. So we are called collectivistic, and the Western notion is known as individualistic culture. Then we will see personality. What is personality? Oh my boy, you're concerned, you're shy, you're quiet, you're wholesome, you're you critique, you are bad, you're good, or anything that people tell you that you are like are the part of your personality. So personality is our own characteristic ways of responding to the individual, and basically it is also the way, or a like characteristic way, or a stable way of responding to any situation for that matter. So personality is derived from the Latin word persona, and persona means the mask that the actors put in the theater for changing their facial makeup. So here there are features of personality. What are the features of personality? So it has both physical and psychological components. Like I will be, if I like dressing up in an Western attire, then I will be wearing it in any or every situation around me. Then psychological component, that I will be behaving in a particular manner. If I think expressing my emotions in front of others is not something that I should do, then I will behave in a particular manner. Then expression in terms of a behavior is fairly unique in a given individual. You will see that if a person is crying, then the other person around them will be behaving in a different manner. That will be showing their personality, that either the person is so much troublesome by the idea that the other person is crying, so they might go console them, whereas other people just move on thinking that it's their business, none of their own business. Then it is also a main feature that do not easily change with time. I can say that no, I can change other person's personality, but no, it's a relatively stable pattern of behavior, and you cannot change the main features of personality. But in some situations, it has been seen that it can be changed, because it's a dynamic in sense that some features can be changed, like internal or external, because of the internal or external situation demands. For example, if you're asked by your professor to like sit and read the whole novel in the library, then you might sit even if you are just a social animal and don't want to do the same. Then we have personality is adaptive to many situations, sometimes yes. Then we have an understanding of personality that allowed us to fully understand the people in a realistic and acceptable ways. Now there are major approaches to study personality. First of all, type approach, that will be saying that there will be only one particular type on which you can basically assess a personality. Then there is trait approach, that we are made up of multiple traits. Then we have interactional approach, which will talk about the situational characteristic that plays an important role in determining our behavior. Then people may be dependent and independent because of the external rewards and threats available to them in a particular situation. With that, I am completed with the first lecture of our chapter 2. Thank you and have a nice day.